Hello and welcome back. Today we're looking at restoring a Redline Ferrari 512S produced in 1972 by Mattel. It was designed after the real car of the same name produced in 1969 by Ferrari. This die-cast model has a special place in my heart because of how similar it looked, at least to me at the time, to a car made somewhat popular by a 1980s film that I remember watching as a kid. The car I'm referring to is the Stratus Zero, and the movie was of course Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Anyway, the Stratos has never been produced by Mattel or Matchbox, so what was a kid to do back then but look for something similar and pretend it was the Stratos? For me, the Ferrari fit that bill. The casting you're looking at today was given to me by a subscriber, Chris, and really represents the perfect restoration candidate. By that I mean that all the parts are still on the car, and this car can lose a lot of parts. None of the parts are broken, and most of the damage is cosmetic. Some play wear, a little bit of oxidation, and just the general ravages of time, all things that are pretty easy to fix. So, to get started, I'll begin by drilling out the rivets that hold the car together. After the rivets or posts have been drilled out, I can take the two halves of the car apart and begin disassembling it further, starting with the wheels. This car uses cap-style wheels, and they can be easily removed by wedging an X-Acto knife between the base and the cap and gently twisting until the cap pops off its base. Next, I'll move to the windshield. The best way of removing these is to push from one side, slightly bending the plastic and allowing the plastic tab to pass by the frame, freeing the windshield. Now with all the parts removed, I can address this old paint, or what's left of it. To do that, I'll spray it down with a liberal amount of aircraft paint remover and let it set for about 5 minutes. After this, I can easily remove the paint with a toothbrush and then rinse the body off with copious amounts of water to remove the paint stripper. And after the car dries, I can get a good idea of the condition of the metal underneath. And it's not too bad. Still some zinc left, but a lot of oxidation too. So to address the oxidation, I'll turn to some Lime-A-Way to dissolve it. Just place some in a glass and drop the car in. Swirl the solution for a minute or so, and then remove the car and wash with water. If you see any remaining oxidation, then simply repeat the process. So getting a good look after the oxidation is removed, I can see that the car has some damage on the raised parts of the hood. These areas probably suffered wear due to a child pushing the car along some rough surface upside down. While I tend to avoid sanding cars as much as possible, this is one case where it's warranted, because otherwise these blemishes will stick out like a sore thumb. That all being said, you want to be really careful when sanding as you're removing the zinc along with the blemishes. Remove too much and you can get into major discoloration issues when you paint the car. I plan to zinc paint the car, so it's not as much a danger for me. However, the more you remove, the more zinc layers you have to add back to get everything to match back up. Also, you should fight the desire to remove all the blemishes, as these cars were not perfect when new, and a blemish-free car also sticks out as being restored. After going over all the metal parts with some soft steel wool, I can then wash and degrease the metal with some Zep degreaser. This sets me up for the plating process I mentioned earlier. I have a past video going over all this setup, so I won't dwell here, but you need the car to be completely clean and passing the water break test before you plate. I tend to plate at half a volt and around 100 to 150 milliamps. Just remember that the voltage is not important and to keep an eye on the amperage. Different setups give different results. Yours might need a volt to get to 100 milliamps. That's fine. You want to plate the car slowly so you get an even plate. Plate it too fast and it'll come out blotchy and rough, requiring a lot of extra work. After about 15 minutes of plating, the car should come out and be washed. After it dries, the plated areas will take on a light gray look. I'll go over these areas with a brass brush or some soft steel wool. This removes some of the plating, but keeps everything nice and even. After I remove all the gray areas, I'll then repeat the process again for another 15 minutes. And as I mentioned before, if I performed a lot of sanding on the car, I'll need to repeat it several more times to be sure that the car has been fully plated. This ensures that when I paint the car, you don't see discoloration through the paint. The discoloration occurs because the paint reacts to the zinc differently than the Zamac metal the car is cast from, usually showing up darker compared to the zinc. After 5 zinc platings, I felt the car was ready to be painted. Again, I washed and degreased it with some Zep degreaser and allowed it to dry before moving to the paint booth. I decided on Spectraflame Red because, well, it's a Ferrari. I'll start off with a light tack coat, and then begin layering on top, with each coat being a little bit heavier than the last. The final coat will be the heaviest, and I'll make sure the paint takes on a wet look across the car body. This car was a bit of a trick to paint given all the hinge components always moving around as I painted. However, I was happy with the end result and set the car aside to cure for the next 24 hours. After I was sure the paint was fully cured, I masked off the louvers with some masking tape and loaded my airbrush with some black paint. I decided to use the black vinyl paint from the Redline shop, as it has a nice matte finish and also doesn't require a top coat to protect it like acrylic does. I sprayed it all on in one coat, as it dries almost instantly. After I was certain that I had good coverage, I immediately removed the masking tape to avoid any paint tearing. Happy with the result, I again set the car aside to dry. So as I wait, I'll move over to the base and begin snapping on some new wheels. I have to admit that these cap-style wheels do make life easier. I've always wondered, though, if they were intended to be changed by kids or not. To my knowledge, Mattel never made any replacement wheels for kids to buy, or tools for kids to remove them, which leads me to believe that kids were not supposed to know they came off. We're getting pretty close to the time when small parts on toys will be a major issue. Items like this windshield would never make it in toys a few years later, as they're too easy to remove and eat. Well, I'm sure someone out there knows. Anyway, I'm currently polishing the windshield with some Meguiar's Plastics polish. I find this is the best polish to use for these plastic windshields, and just a little tip for the 3 or 4 ladies out there who accidentally click on this video, it's also great for polishing one's nails. You're welcome. After the polishing is done, I rinse off the polishing compound with some soap and water and let it dry. Check out that shine. And the windshield looks great too. To put the windshield back in, I just reversed the way I took it out, though I have to admit this was a bit of a pain. The paint is still pretty fresh, and while it toughens up pretty fast, I was a bit worried I might scratch it getting this thing back in. Luckily it popped back in without damaging the paint or the plastic. Alright, so I'm finally at the point I can struggle to put the car back together. This casting is interesting in that it represents the end of an era. By 1972, the Hot Wheels line could have come to an end. Sales had slipped and production costs had risen. Mattel had discontinued their Grand Prix line, the Heavyweights line, and the Spoiler series. There's only to be 7 new castings made in 1972, including this one. Only 26 models were available, with 19 being recycled from the previous year. In fact, in 1971, Mattel produced 35 new models, the most of any year during the Spectraflame era. In an attempt to drive production costs down, Mattel shifted all production of its cars to Hong Kong in 1972, and by 1973, all cars would be painted in enamel paint, bringing the Spectraflame era to an end in 1972. The Redline era would continue up to 1977, but for many collectors and their collections, it all ended in 1972. This particular model was only ever produced in 1972, being replaced by the Ferrari 512S in 1973. I think this car would have looked much better in a clear windscreen, however, you can only get it in blue as all were made in Hong Kong. As you saw in the beginning of this video, the original car was painted in yellow. However, this model has never been painted in yellow. The closest you could get was gold. As far as this restoration is concerned, well, there's always things I can pick apart, but on the whole I'm very happy with it. There were a few small nicks in the windshield I couldn't remove without possibly harming it, so I left them in. As far as the paint, there's a very small amount of orange peel going on, but I didn't feel it was anywhere bad enough to polish out. Again, you walk a fine line when restoring these cars. If you remove all the issues, you break the verisimilitude of the car, and people catch on, especially collectors. I know it can seem like a cop-out, but go look at pictures of mint versions of cars online. They're never perfect, even though they are classified as mint cars. But of course, this is all my opinion, and you should feel free to give me yours below. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.